live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Thanks for joining us on 2 News Live. I'm Brian Schnee. It is Tuesday, April 11th. We're going in depth tonight on day 2 of the trial for Lori Vallow Daybell. We're hoping to speak with our Daniel Woodruff, joining us live from Boise, Idaho. Also, a law professor who will weigh in on this high-profile case. Plus, our Ariel Harrison joins us live to talk about some ongoing situations involving large wildlife in areas. But before we dive in, here's a look at what is making headlines tonight. Right now on our website, the parents of a 19-year-old woman have filed a lawsuit against Intermountain Healthcare, the City of Murray Unified Fire Authority, among others, after their daughter died. They claim Gwen Donor died after being given a lethal dose of ketamine during treatment from being hit by a wrong-way driver. Also on our website right now, Salt Lake City Mayor Aaron Mendenhall announcing Pothole Palooza. The city hopes to repair 6,000 potholes by the end of Friday. Also on KUTV.com, the Hillcrest apartment complex in the Salt Lake Avenues area under evacuation orders after a fire on the top floor apartment area. Crews are reporting no injuries at this point, but they're asking people to avoid this area while they work. Finally, temperatures are warming up. Important reminder of the dangers that are out there of leaving your pets in a hot vehicle. Right now, a lot of this focus is in southern Utah, but if you head outside right now, temperatures are almost reaching 80 degrees in some points today. They can go up 20 degrees in just about a 10-minute span inside of a vehicle. As we go in depth tonight, you can always get in touch with us during the show. Use the hashtag 2NewsLive to join the conversation. You can always find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram as well. We're pretty easy to find, so be sure to weigh in. Some unexpected drama in the Lori Vallow Daybell murder trial. The defendant tried to skip this afternoon's portion of witness testimony, but the judge said no. Daniel Woodruff is live outside of the courthouse in Boise, Idaho. Daniel, why did Lori ask to skip the afternoon session? What was that all about?
Well, Brian, this morning we heard from the Rexburg police detective who investigated her children's disappearance and then their deaths. And the testimony was quite heavy. He talked about finding the children's bodies on the property of Chad Daybell, who is married to Lori Vallow Daybell. And so it was difficult testimony to listen to. Coming back after lunch, Lori was upset visibly, and she told through her attorney, the judge, that she wanted to not be there for the afternoon portion where it was actually expected to get more graphic, and it did, because prosecutors ended up showing a number of photos of the children's remains, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan, from when they were found. Now, the judge considered Lori Vallow Daybell's request to not be present, but he ultimately ruled against her and said she needed to be there in the interest of due process and in the interest of a fair trial for the state. So she did sit there between her attorneys as those graphic photos were displayed and as this Rexburg, Idaho police detective shared pretty detailed and difficult to listen to information about how the children were found, how they were buried, what happened when they were found, and things like that. She was in court today. She's expected to be back in court here tomorrow.
Daniel, obviously very difficult. I was going through your Twitter feed. You were very descriptive, obviously, about what the Rexburg police detective was going through, what evidence he was sharing, some of the reaction in the courtroom. How did things leave off today, and where will they pick up tomorrow?
Yeah, so the Rexburg police detective was being interviewed by the defense right at 3:30, and the judge put a stop to things and said, "We've had enough for today. We'll come back tomorrow," and the Rexburg detective will be back on the stand. He'll answer more questions from the defense, probably a few more from the prosecutors, before another witness will be called. And we don't know yet who that witness will be. I reached out to the prosecution team. They were pretty open and forthcoming yesterday about who they plan to call today, but they're not telling me who they plan to call tomorrow. They said it's not available to the public. But really a heavy day today. That's how things ended. People, journalists, everyone that saw those images, myself, commenting on how difficult it was to see the photos of those children when they were found dead. That really cast a heavy shadow over this trial today, and a somber shadow. And obviously that's what the trial is about. Lori Vallow Daybell is accused of murdering her children and plotting to kill her husband's late wife, but it was brought into sharp focus today with some of those images that were shown to the court and to this jury.
Daniel Woodruff live for us in Boise, Idaho tonight. Daniel, a lot to talk about there from court today. So thank you to you, obviously, for not just going through that and sharing that, but hope you get some rest tonight after experiencing what was a difficult and heavy day in that courtroom. So a lot to unpack from the courtroom today. I had the chance to catch up with Tennille Brown, a law professor at the University of Utah's S.J. Quinney School of Law, just this afternoon.
How do you go about selecting a jury that's supposed to be impartial, that can be the best possible fit for a case like this that is so high profile?
Right. Well, this is, there's the kind of law on the books answer, and then there's the real answer. So the law on the books answer is you get to ask the jury a lot of questions to try to identify any biases that you might think might lead to an unfair trial, for specifically focused on unfairness for the defendant, but the prosecution can also strike jurors. And they're going to be looking for things like, did you watch the Netflix documentary? And that's why a lot of the jurors had to be struck because they had too much background information. And the concern there is they're going to bring, obviously, those news stories and facts with them, and they're going to use that as evidence. And we want to make sure that jurors are making decisions only based on the admissible evidence and not things that may have come up, say, in a podcast or in the Netflix documentary. I think it has a lot of the ingredients that make it a high profile case. You have vulnerable kids who've been murdered, very concerning sort of motives as to why, doomsday cults, conspiracy theories. Anytime a mother is murdering her children, I think there's obviously big question marks there about what went wrong. Is there mental illness? So there's a lot of things that make this a high profile case.
What are you surprised about hearing about some of the evidence that's being shared today?
Yeah, so the question with any piece of evidence is, what is it being used to prove? And so when you're showing lots of pictures of shallow graves and bones and body parts, if I were the defense, I would probably be objecting to that, saying, this is cumulative, this is excessive. Like, unless there is some question about where the bodies were found, then you might need to see the location to prove where the bodies were found on the Daybell property. But repeated gruesome images can really trigger a sense of rage or anger in the jury, to where then they are feeling more vindictive and wanting to blame someone, because and there's even research to show that if you see a lot of gruesome imagery of especially harm to children, and then you ask people to say whether or not someone is guilty, they're really looking for a place to validate that feeling of anger and emotion and outrage. And so you want to make sure that the evidence is really introduced for a particular purpose. And once it's been used for that purpose, then maybe the fifth or sixth gruesome image, you have to ask yourself, is it necessary, or is it just kind of, is it sort of cumulative and maybe making the point a little too strongly?
Well, I also focused on something that our Daniel Woodruff was sharing on social media this afternoon in real time. He shared that the defense attorneys argued that Lori shouldn't have been in the courtroom for the afternoon portion of the trial today, to which the judge said no.
When a defendant doesn't testify, the only thing that the jury gets to see about the defendant to try to figure out what they're thinking and do they feel remorse is to look at their off-stand demeanor. And so the jurors are likely going to be really focusing in laser-like on Lori's face. When they show those images of the broken jaw and the buried bones and the shallow graves, they're immediately going to be turning to her to see, how are you interpreting that? How could you possibly look at those images and not feel sick? And so there's going to be just so much scrutiny on her face. There may have been a considerable amount of pressure for her thinking about, how is the jury viewing me watching these images? But it also could have just been really traumatic, because she could have snapped out of something. It's possible she was in under some kind of temporary paranoid type of psychosis, and that she snapped out of it. And so now she's seeing these pictures and reflecting on what she's done. But it also could be that it's just really a lot of eyeballs on her when she's viewing something that must be, for the rest of us, would be horrific.
To the trial of Lori Vallow Daybell every day, KUTV.com. You won't be able to hear it live because the judge in this case has barred cameras from the courtroom, and any live streams won't occur as well. So, however, audio will be recorded, and every day that we get that, it takes a little while for us to get it. We'll post it, KUTV.com, also our YouTube channel, so you can hear exactly what was said. Also, as we get more analysis and conversations about this, not just from our Daniel Woodruff, but from some legal folks, we'll be sure to put those up on YouTube as well. Let's turn to weather now, because we are just breaking records.
And it's hot out there. I'm saying hot right now because this number, Brian, it feels like mid-June at 83 degrees.
Well, especially when you go from very, very cold, that,
33.
right,
Record
to
cold,
that,
high
like,
temperature.
body's just not ready for that.
That's right. 1 week ago, we were at 33 degrees. We had almost 9 inches of snow in Salt Lake City proper. Other areas more than a foot of snow. And then that snow is gone here in the valleys right now. 83. It was warm. I went to Home Depot today doing a little bit of yard work. It was jam-packed. So everyone's got the spring fever right now and getting outside as things begin to grow just a bit.
What's the big spring chore for you around the house then?
I got to clear all those flower beds. There's still some leaves to rake up. You don't want to be planting.
Right.
You don't want to plant anything right now because we could still drop below freezing, but you want things to kind of be nice and clean at the moment.
Okay, looking forward to come over for that backyard party then. That sounds pretty good.
Let's do it. Let's do it soon. We should have done it today. All right, let's get to your forecast. Record high today. That's going to change though over the next couple days as we're tracking a cold front. So say goodbye to the really warm weather. High pressure is also on the move. This is why we're so warm. The winds are out of the south. They're also gusty ahead of the cold front. It's going to stay windy as we head into tomorrow as well. Then the cold front hits and we'll be feeling some cooler air by Thursday and Friday. Right now, it's still at 82 degrees in Salt Lake. You don't need a jacket if you have any evening plans. It is very pleasant out there. We did hit 90 in St. George. You're at 88 right now. Lots of 70s and 80s in central Utah, and finally warmer up in Cache Valley at 73 in Logan and 73 for our friends out in Vernal. Now tonight we'll be cooling off 50s. That's above normal, not bad. A few more clouds though rolling into northern Utah. Will be in the 50s from Ogden down to Provo, 40s in those mountain valleys. St. George tonight lows near 60 degrees and back into the mid 80s tomorrow with more 70s in central and northern Utah, 60s in those mountain valleys. But you'll notice the cloud cover because this cold front is getting a little bit closer to the Wasatch Front. We might see a stray shower or thunderstorm late Wednesday in northern Utah. Rain chances are pretty low until Thursday morning. That's when the cold front hits, and that's when the colder air meets up with some of that rain, and we could see that rain change to snow even on the valley floor. Now, it's not a big storm. It's not going to accumulate very much, mainly on those grassy surfaces. If we see some of those snow showers for the first half of the day, central Utah might see an isolated shower. Notice, though, by Thursday afternoon and evening, we'll see some improving conditions with a couple lingering showers in eastern Utah. Right now, I think maybe a quarter-inch of rain possible for the valleys. Might see a dusting to an inch on some of those grassy surfaces, maybe a little bit more in Cache Valley and areas north of Salt Lake. Those mountain areas and ski resorts could see another 3 to 7 inches of snow. So not a lot, but they're going to be adding to their record-breaking snow totals. St. George, 84 goes to 69 on Thursday and 68 on Friday. We also have some pretty gusty winds for the next couple days. Less wind and milder temperatures this weekend. Southern Utah, 77 on Saturday, and Sunday we're at 83 degrees. Salt Lake, 75, still pretty mild tomorrow, and then highs near 50 on Thursday. I think most of the day will be in the 40s. Friday, dry, 53 degrees, then those temperatures rebounding. This weekend looks perfect. 60s on Saturday, 71 on Sunday, with more wind moving into northern Utah Monday and Tuesday. Spring is our windiest season, so don't be surprised with these gusty winds for, of course, the next couple days and early next week.
You know what else seems perfect right about now? A Tuesday early evening in Park City.
That's right. And take a look. We're melting that snow in Park City. I mean, where there's shaded,
right.
There's still several feet, but that's something that I'm noticing. Those ski resorts, they're going to be closing here in a couple weeks. Deer Valley is getting very close to 600 inches. They just need 4 more inches. They might just do that to hit that 600 number by Thursday.
You make a good point. Let's head over here and take a look at some of these resorts that are winding down their season here. Come on over here, Chase. I want you to, obviously, this one's for Trent, our guy over there in the Weather Center right now. Yep. Folks at Cherry Peak going to close up shop this weekend.
It's his favorite resort.
April 15th. I like this one. You and I skied here a few years ago together.
That was fun.
That was a great time. April 16th, Nordic Valley, also having a great year. Powder Mountain as well. If we could play a quick game, too. Did they break a record?
Yes.
Did they break a record?
Not sure they have announced, but I would assume so, yes.
How about Nordic?
Yes.
Powder.
Yes.
Okay, let's continue next one. Following weekend, The 23rd, Alta going to close. Deer Valley, Park City, Snow Basin. Did they break a record?
Record. They all broke records. And you know, we still have tons of snow out there, but it's more about logistics rather than if they have the snow or not, why they're closing this weekend and next weekend at some of those resorts.
Sure, and a lot of it is based on interest too. We see it as, oh, we'd love to go, but it is financial for a lot of these folks as well. The folks at Snowbird, though, they could stay open the longest basically out of anybody. Open daily through May 14th at this point, Friday, Saturday through Memorial Day. Solitude will do May 7th. Friday, Saturday through Sunday as well, May 21st. And then the folks at Brighton already saying, hey, we're going to pull this as close to June as possible. Record.
That's right. Every single resort. All-time records. I have that list on my Facebook page, and you'd be surprised. Alta close to 900 inches. A lot of these resorts from 600 to 800 plus.
All right.
For the season.
A record year here for our resorts. Download our 2 News weather app to know about changes in your neighborhood. Get updated forecasts. Live radar right to your phone. Very easy to do. The app is free to download, and it's easy to get on either an Apple or Android mobile device, even those Google phones. Just download it. 4 confirmed cougar sightings this month alone reported along the Ogden benches. DWR says, well, they aren't 100% sure. There's a high possibility that this is the same cat that killed a family's pet over the weekend. Ariel Harrison joining us live now from Ogden. Ariel, there seems to be more and more of these instances with some of these large animals as of late.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, you and I have been reporting on it all winter too, as we've had the wildlife retreating to the valleys just because we've had so much snow. It's the same case with cougars. They eat deer, and deer have been in the valleys, and so that's also therefore drawing cougars into our valleys, which is leading to these sightings they're seeing specifically in the Weber County areas.
Are trying to do about this? What are they saying is the go-to plan right now with these situations, specifically what's happening in Weber County?
Yeah, so I asked them about this because over the weekend there was that family's pet that was attacked by a confirmed mountain lion that was bitten and killed. And so I said, what if something like this were to happen again? Are you guys concerned about these cougars being here? And kind of the short answer was they're not too concerned. They say these are areas cougars are close to because a lot of the area that we're covering for this is the benches, these residential areas that are, just right in line with the mountains. He said they've had cougars in those areas, and that's not different, but he did say because of the deer, it's causing us to see more of them. He said they're going to let nature take its course as the snow starts to melt. They will follow the deer back into the mountains. So he said it's kind of a waiting game as to when we see the snow melt and then we see wildlife go back into the hills and beyond and not in the local neighborhoods. But these neighborhoods I've been spending time in, they're concerned about seeing mountain lions. They are taking precautions. The DWR is saying, hey, make sure you're locking your doors, keeping your pets in at night, locking the doggy doors. Again, and that's from the most recent incident we saw over the weekend where that dog was killed by one of the cougars. Very sad, but a lot of the community there working to proactively to take those precautions, Brian.
Ariel Harrison reporting for us in the vehicle tonight, but spent most of the afternoon in Weber County. Thank you, Ariel. We want to hear from you at home. What wild animal do you not want to meet up with in Utah's outdoors? This has been my answer all along since I moved here, by the way, as somebody who likes to enjoy certain hiking trails along the Wasatch. Please don't square me up against a cougar. I'm part of that 51%. Bears, moose, elk. I mean, I guess I could say moose as well, too. Please don't charge at me. Those are a tough one. But weigh in on that poll. Christina, I won't put you on the spot for that one.
Wait, you would rather run into a cougar than a bear?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's not a grizzly here in Utah. It's a brown bear, a black bear. Well, sorry, it's a black bear at this point.
And that wouldn't scare you? I'd be panicked if I saw a bear.
I think I grew up with way too many of them in New England, so they don't bother me as much. Okay. You just make lots of noise and some sounds and stuff, and they scurry away.
I'll have to remember that.
I don't know. I don't know what's going through that head. Hey, Christina Flores is here. After a long, long winter, many families are looking forward to vacationing this summer. There are some travel nightmares for folks. Airlines and Congress are promising really for better things to come for passengers. What are you looking into tonight at 10 o'clock?
Well, specifically, this concern started with last Christmas. Remember all those passengers who were stranded? They were going to see their families for Christmas, and then they ended up spending days and days at the airport, stuck because flights were canceled. So Congress said, we're going to do something about this to make sure that passengers are compensated in the event that the flights are canceled in the future. But so far that legislation hasn't gone anywhere. It's still waiting to be heard by a committee. So in the meantime, there are some current passenger rights. Some of these things are going to vary airline to airline. So if you've flown different airlines, you know that they have different policies. But the one thing that is guaranteed is if your flight's canceled and you can't get another one, obviously they have to refund you. The other thing that I think a lot of people don't know is that if you are bumped because your flight is overbooked, then you have a right to get compensated by the airline. A lot of people don't know that though, and a lot of people find out later that they should have asked about this, but that is a legal right that passengers have right now. If your flight is canceled or delayed, there is no law that says they have to compensate you. But if you're bumped because of a cancellation, you need to ask the airline about that because they should offer you by law some compensation.
At the end of the day, do your homework, basically, right? Do your homework, ask those questions, and pay attention to your airline's policies.
Yeah, you really need to do that beforehand because don't you think, I mean, these issues are coming up more and more lately.
They are, and there's a lot of money tied to when you travel like this. So be on the lookout for it.
Yeah.
Christina, thank you. Christina, you can't go anywhere. We're closing out the show together.
We are?
Your story airing tonight, 2 News at 10 o'clock, but thanks for watching 2 News Live. Chase is somewhere over in the Weather Center. We're keeping Christina
Come on,
Flores
Chase,
there.
hurry up
there
before the show ends. There he is.
Hey, don't go anywhere. We're back with you for more 2 News Live throughout the week, but don't go anywhere and switch things over to KUTV Live at 6. You'll be around, right?
We'll be around. We're not going anywhere. We're here all the time.
Chase, Christina, Brian, everyone back here at 2 News. Thanks for watching tonight. Take care.